Before I get started, I do consulting on where you can move. I'll work with you to find the perfect place for you to move to. There's more information at the end of the video about that. Now let's get started. I was driving around in this small town in South Dakota, kinda looking for something interesting. A couple hours before, I had met with the Chamber of Commerce, and we talked about how it was bad luck that the day I was here, there was nothing going on. So we were just out getting footage of neighborhoods like I always do, when we turned a corner. Wait, what was this? Maybe some people unloading a horse? Maybe this was somebody's property? Oh my god, there's kids riding a f***ing horse. Kim, I think we just found a fucking rodeo. I had stumbled onto the best rodeo I had ever been to. That's what. It took a while for it to sink in. Why wasn't I told about this rodeo? Is this something that happens here often? Turns out it was the opening day of a kid rodeo series. Little varmints from all over South Dakota come here every week and rope and ride and try to act all cool like. This is what I came up to this part of the country to see.
Good job, bud. Cecil comes in with a time of 41.548.
I was in Wessington Springs, South Dakota, a small town on the plains, kind of halfway between Sioux Falls and the Native American reservations. I was here for an entire day on day 9 of my exciting Midwest adventure. If all of South Dakota towns are like this, I figured it would be a good 3 days up here. Hot dogs for $1, nachos for $1.50, all at the base of the mountains. If you ain't in Western attire, please stay off the bucking chutes, they said over and over. Might be the most innocent thing you'll see out on the Great Plains. No fights, no beer. Heck, a lot of the real cowboys drink Mountain Dew anyways. Probably open. Oh, City Hall is closed. The day had begun a lot more disappointingly. I had arrived at Wessington Springs at 3 p.m., and I thought I'd be able to check the town out a little bit and talk to folks before it shut down for the day. But I guess the town shuts down early. There wasn't anybody in any building I walked into. Everything was empty. I thought maybe I'd made a mistake coming here. Turns out, you just have to know where to look. Wessington Springs is way out in the middle of no man's land farms. You never knew it was even here unless you were intentionally looking for it. It's at least 2 hours to get to a place with a decent population. You could call it all farmer porn. You can see on a map just how rural it is here. You can go an hour and maybe see one Casey's. People here think North Dakota's empty, so I guess that says something about how North Dakota is crowd-wise. Back in the day, there was a trail that went right through town, which Native Americans and settlers took to go east and west. There's not a lot of traffic here now, though. Ain't a single stoplight in this damn town. They actually have 6 stop signs, and folks know exactly where those stop signs are. They even fight to keep new ones added in. There's exactly 811 people in Wessington Springs these days, but that's going down all the time. It's 300 people smaller than it was just 10 years ago. So at that rate, this whole place will be gone by 2050. Times have changed. People just don't want big families anymore these days. Nobody wants to farm anymore, if there's any farm jobs around. They've all consolidated. The meat packing plants all over the state had to close during COVID, and then when they reopened, people were like, I don't want to do that shit anymore. These smaller towns were once the backbone of rural South Dakota, but today they have a huge challenge remaining vibrant. Smaller businesses can't stay open, and you can't blame dollar stores for a lot of that. And COVID only made it worse for mom and pops out here. There's limited health care out here, though Wessington Springs has a hospital. It's a thing here. More than half of South Dakota's counties saw a population decline. Look at this chart. Back in 1950, 2/3 of South Dakotans lived in rural areas just like this. Today, it's down to 1/3. They're going to have to rethink small towns like this, or they're going to be irrelevant one day. But it's not like that statewide, though. South Dakota's bigger cities are expected to grow by 20% over the next 2 decades. All the people wanting to move here for lower taxes, safety, and affordability have made South Dakota the fastest growing state that isn't in the West or the South. Good for you, South Dakota. I wanted to see what a small town in South Dakota looked like and what a shrinking small town in South Dakota looked like. But it's more complicated than that. Turns out Wessington Springs can't grow. The chamber says they get phone calls and emails every week from people who want to move here from Florida, New York, Chicago, all the places that are ruined. But they can't build enough homes. Contractors won't do small housing developments, and the ones who will have a 3-year waiting list. The problem is also the land itself. Oh, there's plenty of land around. They just don't want to take farmland because the farmers are the lifeblood of the community. Plus, I bet if somebody wanted to build a big old house on the edge of town, folks would get their britches in a bunch. Old timers around these parts don't like change very much. I've been seeing this in every small town I went to so far on this trip. Most of them aren't shrinking like I'd expected. And if they are, it's not because of a lack of interest in moving here. So there's lots of potential here. Kinda. You just have to see it. And as the city struggles to figure out what to do long term, life just goes on. I think the best part of my time was walking around downtown at 8 a.m. before everyone was out. It sure is peaceful standing out on Main Street in town. Every now and then a car rumbles by. You can hear cows mooing way off in the distance. You can bet this place hasn't seen a parade in like forever now. A lot of people out here in places like this are old. When one of them dies, there's a good chance nobody's going to replace them. There's a lot of routine for old-timers in rural South Dakota. Don't show up to coffee one day and they'll call on you to make sure you ain't dead in your damn rocking chair. The younger people here find that finding a date is likely a challenge. I'd wager this place is perfect for only 4 types of people: ranchers and farmers, retirees, people who never left, and people who like to drink. The good news is, if the school bus breaks down, the mechanic's only a couple blocks away. That's great. That there's the humdinger. Lots of trucks gassing up and getting that humdinger coffee every morning. I tried it. It's not good. Nice people, though. The Sweetgrass across the street. That place has the coffee going on in town, I'll tell you that. The grocery store in town is run by Ryan. He's super cool. He sent us off with some Jack Link's beef jerky from the Jack Link's beef jerky plant that's only 10 miles away. He wasn't the only person that sent us off with some Jack Link's beef jerky either. The town has this well-manicured Shakespeare garden at the end of town. That's cool. It was modeled after a Shakespeare garden in Stratford-upon-England. So fancy, guys. So fancy. Wessington Springs has a motto: where east meets west, where farming country meets ranching country. It's definitely an everyone knows everyone type place here. Before the trip, I called the cafe in town to make sure I could get a decent supper. It was something like, "Are you the only place in town that's open till 7? What day are you coming? July 27. Okay, well, call us when you're in town. We'll stay open and feed you." I was like, okay. In a place like this, the flower shop shares a building with the mechanic shop. It's the type of place where the minister of the church is also the Little League baseball coach. Of course, it's boring here. Come on now. The town hosts a couple rodeos every year, which is something I'm sure they look forward to in earnest. Some go to car shows, maybe a concert, maybe a local fair or two. To them, it's a big deal. And of course, they're into Casey's here. The Casey's in South Dakota have casinos inside. Because we're in South Dakota, there's a casino and everything here. Now, if you've been paying attention, I've been visiting Casey's in every state to see what pizza tastes like in different parts of the Midwest. And I'm sure you're dying to know how it tastes in South Dakota. And man, was I disappointed. I don't know how you managed to screw up a Casey's pizza, but this one did just that. This was maybe the worst pizza I've had in my life. What the damn hell, South Dakota Casey's? So after 4 states, the Casey pizza rankings are as follows.
Did you know South Dakota ranks 35th for internet speed?
Well, that ain't no surprise, Mappy. Most folks around these parts would rather be outdoors than looking at video games. Which state has the slowest internet?
Alaska does.
Well, hell, them Alaskans need to turn their internet on so as to catch up with the times. You can't be having these Democrats running everything, damn it. Slow internet or not, it's definitely pleasant here in Wessington Springs. I mean, it's quiet, it's cheap. One thing you'll notice is that for a lot of the homes, there's no fence between the yards. How do they keep their nosy neighbors out, I tell ya? You can bet many of these people are armed. South Dakota ranks 9th in the country, where 55% of people say they're armed. It's been said an armed society is a polite society, and crime here is very low. In a small town, everyone knows your beeswax, so if you're a bad person, you'll get run out of town, or you'll be miserable. The average home here is about $130,000 and not going up a lot. This is the most expensive part of town. And this place right here is the most expensive home in town. It sold for $185,000 not too long ago. And I know you're thinking, just wow. If you can find it, you can get a big old home here with 15 acres, and your mortgage might be less than your rent in San Francisco. Most of the homes are 100 years old, though. Here's what the cheapest side of town looks like. This home here sold for $86,000 a while ago. Why do people even come here anyways? To get away from people like you. Boring is safe and drama-free, and you, mister, have a lot of drama. No state income tax helps, but these people look like they've been here a long time, so I don't think they were drawn in by that. I think a lot of these people aren't here for the state's benefits. I think they haven't left because of them. You think this place is small? You should see a place called Lane, South Dakota, population 31. It's just 10 minutes east of Wessington Springs. There used to be 101 people here, but that was a long time ago. Who knows how many are here now? Nothing in town but a handful of homes and a small cafe. This'll probably be a ghost town one day. Or there's Bridgewater, population 498 and going down every month. This place doesn't have any vibrancy. It's too bad. Some towns make it, some don't. For those that stay, this is the type of life they love. Little gas stations out in the middle of nowhere are some of the most wholesome America places we got left. Oh, what? Corn's a big deal. Only in the middle of South Dakota would you have the world's only corn palace. You know, because corn needs a palace, a place to worship the most important vegetable on the planet. This is pretty much the Disneyland of South Dakota. Everybody in the area has to stop and see the damn corn palace. On the west side of the state, they have Mount Rushmore and everything, but Mount Rushmore doesn't have a building covered in corn kernels. This impressive corn palace also serves as the high school gym. Their mascot is the Colonels.
Here at Carl's, we're celebrating 66 years.
And you know what that means? Dinner is on us. Save up to 40% on major appliances and get a steak dinner for two.
This amount of laundry repair is only $9.98.
And comes with a steak dinner for two.
While out and about, I did a lot. I showed you the rodeo. That was way cool. I could never expected to have seen that. Looked like it was going to rain though, so we left the rodeo and went to the local country club. Yes, small town South Dakota has a country club. It's a 9-hole course, but they serve beer. Well, they split the liquor license with the bowling alley. That's so South Dakota. There's really not a lot to do in small town South Dakota after dark. I had a couple drinks at the lounge where we watched a rodeoing on the TV, because what else are you going to watch in rural South Dakota but rodeoing? Great place. Nice people. I did not get the cowboy corn or the pickle spears. I had the small town salad instead. From the lounge, we watched the thunderstorm roll in. I felt bad for those kids at the rodeo who wouldn't get to enter the ring tonight. For many of them, it was their first rodeos. Probably a lot of truck tears on this night. Then, to keep it going, I ended the night at Slippery's, a local watering hole that stays open late if people are still elbowed up. My kind of place. Any kind of place where you can get $2 wells is my kind of place. We even shut the place down. While I was running around town, I heard what sounded like a tornado siren. I was told that's the town's supper bell. It goes off every night at 6 p.m. I'm sure they gotta hurry and get their bellies full since everything closes early around here. I hear it also goes off at 10 p.m. to tell everybody it's time for bed. What the damn hell, you small towners? I love it. Now, as you might guess, picking a place to stay in a town of 811 people is challenging. There are a couple of Airbnbs here, but I elected to stay at the Travelers Motel. Most folks in town said this place used to be scary, but they've cleaned this place up a lot, I gotta say. It ain't that bad, people. It's not like that hotel I stayed at in San Antonio in 2004. That was a nightmare. Plus, from my window, I could watch anybody who might be up to no good. For breakfast, I ate at the Springs Inn. Perfect small town breakfast. I had been in there the day before, and I wondered how this place manages to stay open. Some say if small towns like this were to fade away one day, we'd lose the character of the whole Great Plains. We lose places like this, and we lose the people who have good traits. We might lose goodwill, honesty, hard work, courage, and neighborliness. The small town was once the heart and soul of South Dakota. They say morale is dropping in small towns like this, but I didn't get that vibe here. The community spirit doesn't seem to be waning in Wessington Springs. And perhaps this place will see a turnaround. All but one of the high school graduates here said they plan to return home one day, so that's good. And recent polling indicates people want to move back to smaller towns like this. Wessington Springs is a nice enough place, but I don't think if you decided to leave, anybody here would be shocked. They probably wouldn't hold it against you. When you want to leave, you just go. I bet some of them wish they could hitch their wagons too. This little bubble here is way different than the place I saw the next day. The Native American reservation I spent the day in might be the most sad story I've yet to tell. Give people an idea on what it's like to live in a small town in South Dakota.
It's just, it's simple. I mean, you still have complex things of family life and balance and all of that, but it's just easy. You've got your kids, you don't have to worry about when I send my kids, when they're done with school, I can just say, hey, go to grandma's house or go here and there. I don't have to worry about being there 100% of the time. I can just let them be independent. And I think there's a sense of freedom in small towns that kids in the cities don't get. And, you know, we've got kids that they're driving vehicles when they're 12 years old out on the farm here, you know, it's a necessity. So, I think it's just simple, and it's just the true freedom that we're granted as Americans. You really get a sense of that when you're in rural South Dakota. I think in general, the Midwest, there's an attitude with the Midwestern attitude. There's a difference between the South, and even like when you go Wyoming, it's more of a Western kind of thought process. The Midwest, especially South Dakota, I think we're genuinely hardworking people, and that hasn't changed. You know, if anything, there's been the last few years has been a little bit of a curve with learning to just relax and let things come as they are. You know, that's almost been a learning curve for us, I think, because we've always had such a hard work ethic. But
why do South Dakotans work hard? Like, why are they such hard workers and take pride in work? Why is that?
It's just who we are. I think ag is our number one commodity in the state for even employment, anything. So I think a lot of us, it's that connection to the rural, to to agriculture, to the farming, ranching. It's a way of life. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's a way of life. And even so, we take that attitude and we take it with us into our jobs, and we take pride in that because that's what we've been taught. That's just been passed down through through the generations. It's just ingrained in us.
I wish a lot of the rest of the country could have those values, because there's a lot of places in this country that do not share the values that you guys have up there. So
Yeah.
it's refreshing to see. And that's part of the reason I went on this trip, was to show people this is one of the last great places in the country where you can live, where it's safe and it's affordable and people have values.
Yeah. And I hope we don't, I hope we don't lose that. I hope that stays and we can keep, it's our integrity as a state. And I hope we can keep that.
A lot of towns in South Dakota are shrinking. And they seem to, from what I hear, morale is down and people are wondering what's going on. I did not get that vibe from Wessington Springs. I know that you're not growing, but I did not get a sense at all that there's no vibrancy, there's no warmth.
Right. That's a huge misunderstanding, I think, from a lot of people in the larger metropolises, that the small towns are just dying, and we may be having less population, but by no means are we completely dead,
Mm-hmm.
So we're very proud of our communities.
Yeah. So what's the word on the street? How do people feel about where Wessington Springs is and the whole South Dakota thing? Are a lot of people there happy to live in small towns like they always have? Or are a lot of people there looking for exciting things to kind of come down the road? Is everyone pretty much just staying out of the way and living a rural lifestyle? I love it out there. I could do that if I didn't have.
You got your people that were born and raised there and that love it, and they're never going to leave. You got your people like me that were born and raised there, lived in the metropolises and chose to come back. And then you got your people that have just moved to town, like from the Los Angeleses, the big cities, and just chose to come to small town South Dakota because they're sick of the rat race. So it's we've got one couple that moved up here from Florida. They just started looking at our website and they fell in love with the town, and they came up to visit and they said, yes, this is it.
So besides, I'm going to guess, things to do and weather, are there any downsides to living in a little place like Wessington Springs?
It's a small town, and when you need your city fix, you take off and you go to Sioux Falls, you go to the city, or you go to Minneapolis for a weekend, and then you come back and you appreciate home all the more because you've been there. You get, especially when you're in the small town, when you go to the city for a weekend trip or a week or whatever, by the time you come back, by the time you're ready to leave, you're just like, I just want to go home. And you go home and it's like, oh, this is so nice. I don't have a traffic jam. I don't have to deal with 6 lanes of traffic. I can flip a Yui on the road and nobody's going to care.
Yeah. Well, I'd say y'all are the most welcoming group of people that I've met, and I've traveled a lot. People sent us home with gifts. Everybody came out of the woodworks to talk to us, and just the friendliest people. So I just have to say, I wish the rest of
because I know after I met you, and then I was in town the next day, and I had like 3 people say, hey, this Nick guy was in town, and did you talk to him? And I saw him. So, I mean, everybody was worried that you were taken care of and making sure you had everything you needed.
Yeah. Just the nicest people. I love that town. I actually might even come back one day.
I hope you do. I hope you do.
Yeah. A lot of people don't even know stuff like that even exists to even dream about.
A lot of people would just read about it in a book or think it's something, a Hallmark movie, but that's Springs. So.
Are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. You can get my email in the description to find out how I can help you find your perfect relocation. And I can also help you find your new house too. Email me and I'll work with you on not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home too. That's right. I know awesome, reliable agents all over the country, and I'd love to connect you to somebody who can help you search for that perfect home. Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great. you should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more. You can also now buy my songs on iTunes and other formats. Click the link in the description. Thanks for watching. And remember, while we all might have different views, we should all be nice to each other and try to make the U.S. a better place in a positive way.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.